When Steve asked me if I would talk about avocados, I thought, well, what do avocados have to do with foods in the Southwest? But I always like to talk about avocados, so I didn't really care. I said yes. I think we've seen in the last couple of days that the story of certain foods, is this too loud or? I have no idea. Okay, so I'm really short, so sometimes it's hard to figure it out. The story of certain foods, so like corn or beans or squash, connects us with the stories of local communities and places with ancestors. But sometimes the story of a food connects us with other places and with the rest of the world. And the story of avocados also connects disparate places like California, Mexico, Chile, New Zealand, South Africa. And so, but yet this story of global connections remains a human story, the result of human endeavor and efforts and selection, because essentially food is a human endeavor. Now available year-round in your produce section of every supermarket or packaged as guacamole, avocado once grew in the back patios or the kitchen gardens throughout the villages of central Mexico. Its early history, however, is much like the foods that we're talking about in the last couple of days, but the trajectory has been very different. Avocado is a member of the family Lauraceae, the laurel family, in the genus Perseus. And there are really three different kinds. I'm a professor. There are three different kinds of varieties of avocado, and they'll be on the test. Guatemalan, which is a cold-tolerant variety, which kind of has the pebbled quality, the Mexican variety, which has the high fat content that we really crave in avocados, and the Antillean variety that was probably domesticated in the lowlands, which is the big kind of fat, light-skinned, light green colored, thin-skinned, watery flavoring avocado, which is really not worth eating at all. Those three were likely domesticated in different areas in Mesoamerica, and so this suggests kind of a very kind of complicated history. In prehistoric times, avocado was a fruit that resisted human control, and so some of the scientists going back in the 40s and the 50s trying to find wild avocados in the forests were often unable to tell whether the wild avocados were wild avocados or avocados that had gone rogue, that had actually gone back to being wild. Avocado is a fruit that fights to cross-pollinate. It's a fruit, the tree is both male and female, but at different times of the day. So the Haas variety that we're familiar with is a type A variety, and the pistils come out in the morning and the stamens come out in the afternoon. So while avocados tend to self-pollinate, they also fight to cross-pollinate with other fruits, other avocados. So by the 19th century in Mexico, there were accounts of commercialization of avocados, but an extreme variety, big ones, small ones, big seeds, small seeds, all kinds of different avocados. Avocado was a fruit that is muy noble. It's noble, it's a strong fruit. It's the kind of fruit you throw the tree out in your backyard, you don't water it, you don't pay any attention to it, you don't take care of it, and you get some fruit. You can still market it. The foreign scientists and travelers in Mexico at the end of the 19th century described avocados that were harvested with hooks and kind of scattered on the ground, thrown like rocks, and then kind of marketed that way. But in the early 1900s, California pioneer scientists began to travel to explore in Mexico, looking for new varieties and searching for new types. In the middle of the Mexican Revolution, Wilson Popenoe traveled by train throughout Mexico, stopping to obtain samples, selecting fruits and seeds, and replicating the paintings of seeds, different colors and the fruit, different textures and the pulp, different sides of the seeds. The growth of the California suburbs around Los Angeles were filled with backyard orchards of lemons, orange, citrus, and also avocados. And at this time, the value was in the variety, the diversity of the early expansion of this period. But the Californian scientists wanted higher yields, improved productivity, And they found the mother lode in a little town in Puebla, Atlisca, Puebla, where in the orchard of a French expatriate, Alexandre Leblanc, they found the mother lode, what was referred to in Mexico as la mamá fuerte, which was a tree of the variety fuerte. It's an older variety, thinner green, it has a lighter green skin, cold tolerant, which was a hybrid cross between the Mexican and the Guatemalan. They took the grafts back to California, and by the 1930s, 75% of the area in California was in this single variety. So over time, they eliminated the diversity, and they narrowed down the gene pool. California moved to expand and commercialize this variety, all the while establishing those phytosanitary barriers so they didn't have the Mexicans coming into the market. But how to market avocados to American housewives in the 1920s? Certainly not as guacamole. So the recipes that we see are bananas, maraschino cherries, mayonnaise mixed with avocados, kind of some sort of exotic, sophisticated recipe to appeal to the New York housewife. But something based on taste tests was god-awful. By the 1950s, then the breeders began to do more experiments. They crossed the Mexican variety with the improved California avocados, and this led to Mamá Hass, a single tree in Fullerton, which gave rise to basically the entire Hass industry in California. Within Mexico, commercialization expanded. Mexicans continued to increase their consumption of avocados, but primarily fuerte in the cities, the criollos, the Creoles in the campo. But Mexico still couldn't export to the United States. In the 1950s, seeing the commercial success of Hass avocados in California, a group of what are referred to as the pioneros, the pioneers in Uruapan, traveled to California. They couldn't export their own avocados, but they could smuggle Hass budwood. They bought it. They purchased it in the California nurseries, covered it up in tarps in the back of their pickup trucks, and then hauled it back down to Uruapan. They chopped down the orchards of all the criollo varieties, the fuerte varieties, and they developed grafting techniques to graft Hass onto the Creole rootstock. They destroyed the diversity in order to commercialize the fruit. Michoacan expanded the avocado orchards, and now the area Michoacan controls 35 to 45% of the world's avocado production. From a quaint little folkloric town, Uruapan converted itself into the world's capital of avocados. As these orchards expanded, the pioneers gave way to a new group, the empresarios, the entrepreneurs, the investors, and they began the fight to enter the U.S. market. They lobbied the Mexican government. They conducted orchard inspections to demonstrate the safety of their orchards. And quietly at the same time, the foreign avocado companies came to Mexico. Misión, Calavo, Dole, the brands that we all recognize in the market today. The same companies that marketed the California producers. In 1998, when the U.S. first opened the U.S. market, the companies were already there. Within 4 export seasons, the companies controlled 70% of the Mexican exports. In the produce newspapers and the newspapers today, we read about Mexican exports, but it's the companies that export Mexican avocados, not Mexicans. The same companies expanded worldwide avocado production to Chile and in New Zealand as well. The binational integration also transformed the area, the regions in Mexico, and the people. The pioneers who initiated the process, who established the industry, gave way to the empresarios, the international businessmen, known locally and disparagingly as los reyes del aguacate, or the avocado kings. The pioneers disparaged them as the ones who sold out to the gringos. To make money on avocado is now to pack it, to export it, not to grow it, not to know anything about the production. The expansion of the importing companies also transformed California. Calavo, originally formed as a producer cooperative in the 1920s, filed to become a private company with the SEC. Now it meets the needs of its shareholders, not of its producers. California expansion was thwarted by urban growth, high land prices, lack of water, so the California producers disappeared, and what we see is the emergence of a marketing company. The binational integration transformed the market. by 2000, the avocado industry has become fully globalized. When you purchase avocados in your produce section, you have to check very closely to see where your fruit comes from. New Zealand, Chile, Mexico, California, the brand is the same. To become a commodity, the link between the producer, place, origin, and us as consumers has been disarticulated. When I see the Calavo brand of guacamole, there are 3 varieties of guacamole: authentic, pico de gallo, and caliente, which doesn't make any sense, but caliente means just like hot in terms of temperature, not picante, which I think is what they mean. All based on supposedly traditional recipes from Uruapan, Michoacan. When I see that, I remember Uruapan, and I remember small criollo varieties with skins so thin that you could mash them with your fork and eat them with the avocado. And I remember the guacamole that I have eaten in the cocina of my friend Inés Garcia de Sanchez, a guacamole that continues to tie me to place, to family, to history, to heritage, and to buen sabor. And I would urge all the discussions in food here to never lose that connection. Muchas gracias.